Oftentimes, we look to fictional stories as an escape from reality. A lot of video games are fictional stories that grab you and pull you into a make-believe world, oftentimes feeling close to real life. But what if some stories were based on real life? Here are 4 video games that are based on real-life chilling events. Until Dawn, Wendigos. Until Dawn is a drama survival horror game that takes place in Western Canada. A group of teenage friends go on vacation in a cabin on Blackwood Mountain. After a prank gone wrong, Hannah Washington runs out of the cabin and into the woods. Her twin sister Beth follows her and tries to bring her back. Just when they reunite, they are chased off the cliff to their deaths by something in the woods.
Hannah! Oh my god, you must be freezing. Here, take my coat. I'm such an idiot. I'm so dumb. Hannah, back.
A year later, the group returns to the cabin for a reunion and the anniversary of the missing twin sisters Hannah and Beth. After a series of peril with the group, they then discover the true horror of the cursed mountain, the horrifying creatures called the Wendigos. Wendigos are actually based on Algonquin folklore. The Wendigo is a cannibal monster. It is believed to be in the northern forests of Atlantic coast in the Great Lake regions of both Canada and the United States. The Wendigo's description varies, some describing them having characteristics of a human, some with long limbs, glowing eyes, long fangs, long tongues, decaying skin, and thinning hair. It is also said that the Wendigo is an evil spirit that possesses humans, which then transforms them into something monstrous, and historically associated with cannibalism, murder, greed, and cultural taboos. A Cree man named Jack Fiddler was considered to be the most famous Wendigo hunter and the famous shaman for his abilities for protecting his people from spells and to conjure animals. Jack has claimed to kill 14 Wendigos. Some were sent against his people by an enemy shaman. By the beginning of the 20th century, the Sucker people were among the indigenous people in North America living in a traditional manner, with almost no government imposition. In October 1907, Jack and Joseph, his brother, were arrested for murder. They were charged with the murder of Joseph's daughter-in-law the year before, who they believed was possessed by the Wendigo spirit and in the process of transforming into one. On September 30th, Jack escaped and hung himself nearby, while Joseph Fiddler was still on trial. Angus Ray, an eyewitness, testified that the woman was killed from an incurable illness and the Sucker people were unaware of the Canadian law. Explaining the Wendigo, Ray also explained that Jack and Joseph Fiddler, who were the ones who would euthanize those with bad illnesses to prevent Wendigos. Despite this, Joseph Fiddler was found guilty and sentenced to death. Without their leaders, this caused the Sucker people to accept Canadian government rule. Watch Dogs 2: The Zodiac Killer.
This is the Zodiac speaking. For the last time, you have found me, my kindred spirit. You, above all others, blue pigs and mere mortals, were able to help me complete my work. My great machine has ended as it began. On my terms. I will never be named. I will remain. Zodiac.
Watch Dogs 2 is an action-adventure game. You play as Marcus Holloway, a hacker who works with the hacking group DedSec to take out CTOS, a system which brings harm to innocent citizens in San Francisco. There is a DLC mission called Zodiac Killer. It features the Zodiac Killer, who has been haunting San Francisco for years. The Zodiac Killer is based off the Zodiac Killer, or the Zodiac, who was a serial killer in North California in the late 1960s to the early 1970s. The Zodiac Killer's identity remains unknown, and has claimed to have murdered over 37 people. There have only been 5 confirmed murders, 2 injured, and possibly 20 to 28 dead by the police in Northern California in 1968 to 1969. On July 31st, 1969, 2 letters were sent by the killer to Vallejo Times-Herald, the San Francisco Chronicle, and the San Francisco Examiner. The letters explained the killings in detail to prove that they were from the killer. The letters were also signed with a symbol, a circle with a cross in the middle, making the Zodiac's mark. Along with this letter were 3 different cryptic codes, which according to him would reveal his identity. The killer demanded that the letters be printed on each paper's front page or he would kill again. On August 8, 1969, the codes were decrypted and read, "I like killing people because it's so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild games in the forest because man is the most dangerous animal of them all. To kill someone gives me most thrilling experience. It is even better than getting your rocks off with a girl. The best part of it is then when I die, I will be reborn in paradise, and those I have killed will become my slaves. I will not give you my name because you will try to slow me down and stop my collecting of slaves for my afterlife." The final letter from the Zodiac was sent to the Chronicle on January 29, 1974, praising the Exorcist movie, saying it was the best comedy that I have ever seen. The letter also included a verse from the Mikado, with an unusual symbol at the bottom which remains unsolved. He also included a score, me equals 37, San Francisco Police Department 0. LA Noire, Black Dahlia Killer.
Note is from the Dahlia maniac. He definitely also killed Teresa Terrell.
Mal and I agree.
But where does that leave us? If this is the Dahlia Killer, and he is responsible for the Tarrelson murder, not to mention the Muller
Hang
case.
on a moment, Skipper.
Let me finish, Rusty.
LA Noire is an action-adventure detective game that takes place in Los Angeles in 1947. You play as Detective Cole Phelps and solve crimes across LA. A lot of the crimes which Cole solves are actually based on real-life events that took place around the same time. One villain in the game, called the Black Dahlia Killer, is based off the most gruesome of America's cold cases, the Black Dahlia. Elizabeth Short, or known as the Black Dahlia, was the woman who was found murdered in Lemonade Park in Los Angeles, California in 1947. Her body was found naked in 2 pieces, and positioned purposely on the vacant lot. Medical examiners determined that she had been dead for 10 hours prior, and the body had been washed by the killer. Her body was completely drained of blood, and her face was slashed from the corners of the mouth to her ear, along with other cuts across her body. There were more horrible things done to her body, but it's honestly too gross to say and also horrifying. Investigators were convinced it was someone she knew due to the mutilations on her body. It seemed like revenge on Elizabeth. On January 23, 1947, the examiners received a call from a man claiming to be Elizabeth's killer. He said that he didn't like how the story was told in the papers, then offered to mail proof that he was the killer. The following day, the examiners received an anonymous package with Elizabeth's birth certificate, business cards, photographs, and an address book with the name Mark Hansen on it, who now became the prime suspect. Soon after, various newspaper offices started receiving letters written in magazine clippings, one which read, "I will give up Dahlia killings if I get 10 years. Don't try to find me." Unfortunately, the case remains unsolved, but remains open for any new evidence. But since the murder is decades old, there is only a small chance that the case will be solved. Outlast 2, Jonestown Massacre.
Oh God, Blake.
Are you okay?
No.
What the fuck?
I don't know. Oh shit. We have to run.
Right there.
If we hope to be that we cannot only try to be like Jesus, we need to be like God.
Outlast 2 is a first-person survival horror game. You play as Blake Langerman, a journalist who is exploring the murder of a pregnant woman known only as Jane Doe, with his wife, Lynn. During their investigation, the helicopter they were on crashes, leaving Blake to be separated from his wife. After desperately looking for his wife, Blake ends up in a nearby town called Temple Gate, a cult where people sacrifice their children to God. The cult leader, Papa Noth, claims Temple Gate as the mouth of hell and that Lynn was pregnant with the Antichrist. Outlast 2's story is actually inspired by the Jonestown Massacre. Jim Jones founded the People's Temple in 1956, a radically integrated church focusing on helping people in need. Jones had a vision of the world where everyone lived together in harmony while working for the common good. Eventually, due to negative attention, Jones moved the People's Temple to Jonestown in Guyana. Jonestown was meant to be a utopia or a haven, but things quickly changed. Eventually, this caused Congressman Leo Ryan, reporters, and concerned loved ones to go over to Jonestown to see what was going on. With their presence and the fact that the people within Jonestown wanted to leave caused Jones to unravel. On November 18, 1978, this then led him to attack the defectors, reporter, and the congressman himself at the airport by shooting and killing them. Afterwards, Jim Jones instructed the members of the People's Temple to commit a revolutionary suicide by cyanide poisoning. He told his guards that if anyone refused the poison, to shoot them. Jim Jones himself was shot in the head by a guard, and not by himself. About 918 people died, including children. Only a handful of people survived, both from the airport attack and in Jonestown. These were 4 video games based on real-life events. What did you guys think? Are you freaked out as I am? Because seriously, researching all this stuff kind of scared me. Let me know in the comments if you know any other video games based on real life. Oh, and happy Halloween!